Welcome back to Hardball. In North Carolina, Grassroots protesters gathered today, as they do every Monday now, to push back against the state's ironclad Republican control in both houses and the governorship. And they're getting national attention now. They're protesting GOP cuts to social programs, a refusal to expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act. And they're also protesting something we've given a lot of attention to here on Hardball: efforts to suppress the black vote, which could include photo IDs at polls, elimination of same-day registration, and perhaps most importantly, shortened early voting hours. Judith Browne Dianis heads the Advancement Project, along with the North Carolina state chapter of the NAACP, has helped organize these protests. Thank you so much, Judith. Thanks so much. You've got this whole segment to yourself, and this is a very important issue. Tell me what you think is the worst thing that's going on in these state houses, controlled by both houses, controlled by Republicans. And in many cases, 24 cases, they've got the governorship as well. They're able to just do whatever they want to manipulate the electorate.
That's right, Chris. This is the first time that the Republicans have actually held on to both houses in North Carolina and the governor's mansion since 1870. And so what they did was, when they won all of those houses, they decided to move an agenda of extremism, an agenda that not only hurts working families by not expanding Medicaid, but cutting off unemployment benefits, and then moving to give a tax credit to the 23 wealthiest families in the state. And then add to that, they're going to try and cut back voting rights at the same time so that people won't be heard when the next election comes. So this is the kind of extremism we see when they take over both houses of the legislature and the governor's mansion. And what is great about North Carolina is North Carolinians are standing up against this extremism.
Well, what's extraordinary to people who watch this program, who know what's going on in politics, that these are states, in many cases, that voted for Obama. And yet, because of the way people voted in 2010, maybe the Democrats were just sitting on their butts, but whatever happened, the conservative movements in this country and the hard right movement were able to grab control of the levers, deciding who votes, deciding how money is spent. Enormous power, even in states that we call blue or purple. How's that happen?
That's right. That's right. Of course, in 2010, we had Republicans really did a yeoman's job of using redistricting in order to gain their own power in the future. Then in 2012, what we saw was that when people turned out in 2008 and 2012, Republicans said, wait a second, what is happening here? And started to try and pass restrictive voting laws. And in North Carolina, they were able to grab the governor's mansion. And so now we're starting to see the agenda that they wanted to put in place because they're finally in power. And so, at the end of the day, what is great about what is happening is that while they have been able to get control, and let's not forget how much money they have put into politics to winning these elections. In North Carolina, we have the Koch brothers all over the country. In North Carolina, it only takes one guy, and his name is Art Pope, and he can buy and sell that legislature. And at the same time, on the other side of the coin, we have the people. And the people are standing up against big money. And the people, if you look at that movement in North Carolina, it is a locally grown, organic movement that started in 2007, has continued through now with the North Carolina NAACP at the helm of it, and really bringing together people across racial lines, across economic lines. The people who are being arrested are doctors and nurses, they're teachers, they're firemen, you name it. We've had even city councilmen from various cities throughout the state being arrested because people are saying no to this agenda of extremism. No, you will not cut a gaping hole in the safety net for North Carolinians, and we're not going back to where we were.
Well, let's take a look at the state of play now. Republicans control both houses of the legislature, plus the governorship, as I said, in 24 states now. So that's nearly half of the states, obviously, under total Republican control. State house and both legislatures. Democrats have the same power in just 14 states. So I guess there's a couple messages here. I don't know whether protests work. You think they do. I think voting works. I think unless you get Democrats, especially minorities and young people, to understand you can't be a sprinter in politics. You got to be a long-distance runner. You can't vote just in presidential elections and feel satisfied because the government's being taken away from you.
That's right. But, Chris, here's the thing, is that you can't just vote, but in between you have to be engaged. And that's what's happening in North Carolina. The Forward Together movement is keeping people engaged during these off years, right? Too often we focus on just going into the election cycle, going to the booth, we vote and then we leave. Well, in fact, what we need to do is be engaged. We need to watch these state legislatures. As you said, they have taken over so many state legislatures. They're passing regressive laws that are harming working families and the poor, that are really dividing our country. And so instead, what we've got to do is, in North Carolina, they've taken the path of Moral Mondays and protesting, but it's about gaining momentum, because what's going to happen in North Carolina is we'll start with these protests, but the North Carolina NAACP, Democracy North Carolina, and others are ready to register people to vote, because they are going to show their voices when they go into the voting booth.
Well, anything you can do to juice up the voters and juice up the citizenship of this country is good for everybody. Thank you, Judith Browne Dianis, for joining us on Moral Monday. Up next.